on fire.
Speaking of on fire, hello everyone. As usual, we have started chatting before we went live. Welcome to the latest episode of Vox Vomitus. I am your host, Jennifer Ann Gordon, the award-winning author of Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent and the Hotel series. I'm joined today, as always, by my Vox Vomitus vixens, author Allison Martine of the Bourbon books, and author Trisha Mckee of the Beyond series. We have an incredible guest today, somebody I absolutely adore, and I'm going to fangirl really bad when we start talking about her books, Miss Tosca Lee.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Tosca, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work?
Yes. So we were just discussing a minute ago. I live in Nebraska, and I actually grew up here. I was not born here. I was born in Virginia, but I grew up here, and I am married to a really handsome farmer. So I live in the country.
Swoon.
Yeah, you should look it up. If you go to my Instagram, you can see how to see him, and he's worth looking at. So
I did. I looked at your wedding pictures. I won't lie.
Oh, he's so cute. Oh,
and
God.
I was just, that's when I thought, was like, she's so pretty.
Thank you. That's how I met him, is I saw him and I was like, he's so handsome. And I picked him up. That's how we met. Yeah, because
I love that.
My friends helped me. We sent him a drink with my card and then we fled. So I didn't really pick him up right then, but we tried. So anyway, back to, so I live in Nebraska. I'm married. I'm a farm wife.
She's a farm wife. She's got a hot husband.
Hot farmer romance and go.
Yeah. So, when I married him, I also gained 4 children because he's a single father. So that made him hotter.
Yeah.
So I have 4 kids too. And that's a little bit about me. Did I cover the bases? Yeah.
I mean, you didn't mention your writing, but I think we can do that. We can do that. We can do that part.
To the writing. Fine.
Yeah.
And then I do this thing on the side.
Yeah, like you write books.
Just
write,
bestsellers.
Bestsellers. You just write bestsellers.
Get to it. Tell us more about the farmer.
Yeah. Smoking hot.
Smoking hot. So, which is why we were like, yeah, fire. So I am about halfway through your book, The Line Between.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you
for reading.
I love it so much. And I will admit that I put off reading it because I knew it was about a virus. And I'm
so sorry.
No, and I'm writing a book about a virus. So I wanted to get to a certain point in my book that I didn't want to have influences or virus fever, if you will. But terrible joke.
Yeah, it was. Keep going.
I liked it, but
so The Line Between. I don't know the end, but I know you do. Allison messaged me right when she was finished. She's like, "I'm done." I'm like, "No, I'm not."
And I said nothing because I didn't want to spoil anything for her, and I behaved.
Have you? Are you really sick of people asking you about how you were able to capture this virus that you write about and the process of a pandemic so specifically down to the social distancing, everything is
masks
eerily on point.
I'm not sick of it. It's been surreal, Oh, she's got her mask handy.
I'm listening.
It's been a little weird. My sister, I have 2 sisters. One of them is a physician and she teaches med school also in Boston. And so she really helped me with this and, helped me think through, okay, what do I need to know? What do I need to think about? And so if anything, I would say it's just been a little surreal, I guess.
Have you ended up in any kind of FBI watch list? Because whenever I find these authors who have predicted things so well, I'm just like, what do they know that the rest of us don't? And it got scary at points when I was reading it going, I see these things echoed in our lives. And this came out before the pandemic even started. So you had your finger so on the pulse. It's
Yeah, I think all of us actually as authors are probably on some like watch list somewhere or another, because I know the kind of things that you all are looking up on your search history. So
Yeah,
Mine
they're
just
gross.
like, why are you looking up so much booze? I don't think of a watch list other than Bevmo's mailing list. And I say coupon.
You also did a really good job. So I'm glad you mentioned the fact that your sister's a physician, because your medical knowledge sounds legit.
I can take no credit for that. So
thank you, sister.
Yeah, thank you, sister. And then, you know, she's so busy that in between I'm trying to push her these drafts and say, can you read this? Does this sound right? And she's like, okay, yeah, you know, it's good enough. So
Is she your big sister or your little sister? Because I want to know the dynamic there.
She's my little sister. So I have an older sister who's also an RN, and a little sister who's a physician.
So basically you can be checked on either side between the nurse and the physician telling you what's what.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yep. Yeah. So,
well, you nailed the accuracy. I will attest, because even like, I don't want to get into any spoilers, but there's sections where you get into more detail about how things are operating and things that I'd never seen before and that don't necessarily match things I'm aware of. So just a spoiler alert for anybody this is not the same as COVID. So if you're kind of COVID,
it's not COVID, don't worry.
So I've been worse. It's worse. Because
it is way worse. Yes.
The same thing, because I'm writing a book about a virus, and I'm like, but it's not COVID.
It's not.
It's more disgusting. Mine is more disgusting. Yours. So, and I don't think this is too big of a spoiler. Your virus is about rapid onset dementia.
Yeah. So that when I say it's worse, I don't mean to disrespect the current pandemic. I just say that it's worse in that there's the scary aspect of everybody who gets sick. You don't get better. So if you get sick, you're a goner, and then before you die, you go crazy. So that's
the scarier part.
That is
I mean, a virus is scary enough, but then when you factor in the things that are happening, and I mean, for those of us who are familiar with mad cow, this is mad pig.
Yeah,
is basically what
it's mad pig. It is
mad pig disease,
or mad sow.
Mad sow.
I had to say
mad
it.
Sow. It was mad sow.
Yep.
And I think it's also really terrifying and beautifully written, but it's so terrifying because everybody has experienced somebody that they love probably with dementia.
Yeah.
And it is a fear in the back of all of our minds, probably anyway. It's like, you know, nobody sits there thinking, God, I hope I get dementia when I get older. I hope that's how I go.
Right.
So to have it being a virus and it happening to people of all ages.
Yeah. And very rapidly too. It happens within weeks. So there's I was trying to think, you know, what would be truly frightening, you know, and, you know, we've got zombies. This is reverse zombies. You don't, you like get sick and eat brains. Like you get sick because you ate brains. Or, you know,
I love it.
Right. So, yeah.
So I am not, I'm so sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, when Jen was trying to describe the genre of this book, the first thing that you said, Jen, tell me what it was you said, because were you saying Christian thriller? And then
I don't know if I said it to you today. I said I feel like I was watching Big Love meets The Walking Dead. So
I was going to say, one of the things is so Tosca, I will admit, this is the first of yours I've read. Huge fan now. You have converted me to the Tosca Lee fan.
Oh, thank you.
But you also have co-written books and have written a bunch of other books. So this is one of your most recent books, but it's not the only book you've written. And you've written things that are considered Christian fiction or maybe Christian adjacent fiction. And we were talking, how do you get classified now? Because when Jennifer do women get more pigeonholed than men in their genres? And we weren't sure if that was something where we were cherry picking our examples, or when you describe what kind of books you say, do you just say best-selling and award-winning? Because that wins. They want to get more specific. What do you say?
Oh, you know, I say I write historical, and then I also do thrillers. And the historical ones have been considered Christian because they've been about figures like Judas Iscariot Eve and as an Adam and Eve, the Queen of Sheba.
Yeah.
That's pretty historical. So that was very challenging actually to write. So I say that I do that, but I say I also have some kind of, the rest are thrillers. They're either dystopian or slight paranormal, or well, they're all pretty much one or the other of those. So yeah.
But and under your name, you aren't using two pen names or anything. And has anybody either in the publishing industry or even fans giving you any pushback for the fact that you don't sit squarely in just one box?
My agent, I'm driving him crazy. I know he hates it. And, publishers really, everything's category. But, my readers don't seem to care. I'm like, hey, I got this new exciting ride. You want to go on it? And they're like, right on, and they just kind of go along. And that's one thing I love about them. But, I tell my agent all the time, I'm like, I know this makes your job harder, but I don't want to read the same thing all the time. I don't want to eat the same thing all the time, So I don't want to write the same thing all the time
either.
Yeah, I don't.
Let you tell whatever stories in your voice, and they don't always have to fit squarely in always on this shelf. And we just, if you don't know, it just means I need my own end cap display. That's what we're gonna have to do, Barnes & Noble, end cap display.
So, and I just try to go broad. It's either a kind of a thriller or it's kind of historical. So there you go.
We really loved the fact that you don't have a pen name for half of your career. I just
that was a dig on me, but I'll take it.
No, it's not. It's not at all.
It was too hard. It was too hard, frankly. The thought of trying to grow another brand to me felt too hard. So part of it's laziness on my part, where it's just like, well.
So you gave, that was a good point. It's more than a name; it's a brand. And and Allison, it wasn't a dig on you, but Allison is a literary sci-fi writer, and she also writes romance.
Romance too, I know.
They're different worlds.
Yeah, and I've explained to Jen, she knows this, that the reason I write under two names, and part of it is because my actual last name is Hubbard, which has a good connotation for sci-fi because people go L. Ron Hubbard. It is awful name for romance. Although someone's like, oh, you guys could be the Hubba Hubbas. I'm like, no. Take that. And also there are still stereotypes in the sci-fi world about women writing. So when I write sci-fi, I just use first initials. And when I do, and it helps that my middle name is French. So when I do romance, I'm Allison Martine. And that's so...
That sounds
very romantic.
Yeah, very romantic.
And then I just go back to drinking, so that's fine.
I want to drink so bad now.
Sorry.
I'm cheering you through my
just here, take a little sip. As I just poured on my phone. So is there something you like writing more, or that comes easier? I know that I feel like the historical stuff, obviously there's a lot of research there, but your thrillers, or the thriller that I've read, has a ton of research there too.
Yeah. It's funny. There's easier books. What's that?
I was just say, could you write easier books where you don't have to?
I felt like after doing, Iscariot, which took me a year and a half to research before I could even start. And I went to Israel and I studied under scholars. And so for me the thrillers felt easier research wise, but then again, you're right, because there's always research. And I spend so much time online, looking for images of very specific things to make sure, you're looking, how do I describe this? What's the layout of this? And, and maybe that's part of the fun.
It's like being a detective. I've found, especially it's when you're setting something in a certain place, like whether it's a hospital and you're using a real place. I'm sitting there with blueprints, I think, of buildings, and I'm looking at where's the emergency exit here?
Where would that be?
Where is that here? What does their parking garage look like?
Exactly. Yep.
That's the glamorous writing life.
Well, I was going to ask, so we know you did some medical research and had your sisters as assistants there. Did you do anything looking into, and again, spoiler, but it's right in the beginning, cults and
Oh, yeah.
societies apart from the rest of the world's societies, because that's going to get you on a watch list too.
Yeah. Well, our Ron Hubbard, let me tell you.
I mean, I'm not saying
Speaking of
anything.
cults,
I did. I had a ball. I hate to admit it. I had so much fun.
Cults are very
I've always been fascinated by cults, and I think a lot of people are.
Oh yeah.
yes.
And so that was really fun. I mean, all kinds of cults. I mean, Scientology obviously was one of them, but
I never said Scientology was a cult.
yeah, well, but I read Scientology. I studied Scientology.
Yeah.
I studied Warren Jeff's super fundamentalist group. I studied Jonestown and the Branch Davidians and a lot of more kind of obscure ones too. And it was really, really interesting.
I found that there are more like little obscure cults out there than anyone even understands. Like I live in little Nowheresville, New Hampshire, and I know no less than 3 people who have been in cults as children and got out. Separate cults.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I think we really don't even hear about them unless one of 2 things happens. A celebrity gets involved or there's mass murder. Then everyone hears. Otherwise, if it's just people who are dressing a little differently and not interacting, we
would never know.
Yeah, we don't even know. I mean, I think everybody heard the one about the girl who was in Smallville.
Next
for the sex cults.
Yeah.
That made headlines because it was someone who was really well known. But otherwise,
that was fascinating. I read and watched everything I could find on that one as well. Yeah.
Very nice.
Oh my gosh. So I'm going to throw this over to Trisha. Trisha, do you have any questions for Tosca?
I do. There are a lot of rules that new writers are told to follow. Do you have any rule that you feel breaks the common rules? Is there any rule out there that you just feel is unnecessary and new writers should be beware of?
Yeah, lots of. So write, no rules. Write what you know. That's not a good rule. I wouldn't have written any of the stuff I've written. So let's throw that one out.
I love that.
You have to.
I do too.
You have to like write every day. Well, I don't. Then I'm not a writer. I don't write every day. I can't.
Me neither.
Right.
I don't. Yeah.
I might go weeks. I might go in between projects. I might go months. So.
Well, your brain needs to rest. I always say this. It's like you have to let the ideas come.
Yeah, and you have to go live a little bit and be inspired and travel places and see new things that give you new inspiration.
Yes.
Right?
But not during a pandemic. We are not allowed to do any of that.
We're not allowed to do that, which makes it a lot harder. But there's TV.
There's Google Earth.
Yeah, that's
Google
right.
Earth has been wonderful.
Google Earth and TV. And so, and then the other one, let's see. So write a certain amount every day. I think that's a lot of pressure. I think it's great to aim for that. But, there are days that I can't get 500 words, let alone 2,000 or more. So I think you just have to kind of count every day a win. I do think you should move towards your goals. And I will tell you, my number one rule of writing is to write like no one will ever read this. And I share that with everybody. And the reason I do that is because, when you're writing before you're published, you can't think about who's going to read it or if it'll be accepted. You can't think about that. And then after you've published 2, 3, 5, 10, however many books, knowing what people expect and knowing this, the names of reviewers, the names of critics, the names of all the, you have to somehow banish that from your mind so you can get to this place of moxie and audacity. And so you can be free to commit your badassery on the page. Right. So,
right.
So write like no one's ever going to read it.
So it's about being vulnerable in your writing, allowing yourself just to be out
and confident. And I think if you can't write with confidence, you're really hobbling yourself. You have to have confidence. And I think that's the hardest thing to have because every day when I sit down to write, I feel like an idiot, or I feel like I'm not up to it, or I feel like I'm too tired or lame or hungry, or it's not working today, every single day.
Well, I mean, this is why our show is called Vox Vomitus, which is our fake Latin for word vomit. Because,
I love it.
Oh, Terry, thanks for sharing, Tosca. Terry is a fellow author.
Oh, hi, Terry.
So our show's called Word Vomit because, Allison, Trisha, and I, we have this group chat and we kind of hang out there sometimes during the day, check in with each other on our writing process. And it was like a year ago almost, and Allison asked me, like, how's the writing going? And I said, it's word vomit, but it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
you're getting
I'm
it
getting
out.
it out.
You're getting it
out. And so I think it's so important that you do need to write and tell the story you want to read.
I think too, if you can't get it out, people dream of being writers and kind of living this life. But to do that, you have to finish the book, and you have to finish more than once. And if you can't allow yourself to really vomit it out and to let it be really not very good sometimes, I mean, it's not good. Then we won't finish. So, make it pretty later, but get it out now.
Yeah. You can't edit a blank page.
Like, that's right. That's right.
You can't rewrite what's not written. So
that's true. Yeah.
Well, what do you do though when you said, okay, you need to have that confidence? What do you do when your confidence has taken a knock? Yours may never have, because
no, it has.
You're gorgeous and you're award-winning and international bestselling. So it's possible that you landed.
She also has a hot husband.
I know, hot farmer husband. But has it ever happened? And then what do you do to recover? Tell us, mere mortals.
My confidence has taken many knocks, and actually, it took a terrible one with the writing of The Line Between. My first draft was an utter disaster because I decided to try to pants it. Because I'm an outliner, and I'm like, this is my 10th book. This is intrinsic now, right? It's in there. And so I just took a stab at it, and it was not good. And I had to rewrite it more than normal, and it actually delayed the publication for a whole season. And so, and I went into it with fear and trepidation and just feeling like I have no idea how to even fix this. And it was just a lot of, slogging through it. And then all of a sudden, because I had, taken so long to do that, I had to go straight into the sequel. And so I'm in this really low, terrible place, and I'm starting the sequel. So I did my outline. I was like, that's much I know. Yeah. So I did my outline and I went into the writing, and I just, I think sometimes you just have to fake yourself out and say, okay, I am the god of this world. I'm the queen of this page. I'm going to do this. And you know what? Hot, handsome Brian, my husband.
Hot, handsome Brian.
He's also very smart, and he's very intuitive. And I don't know how many times he said to me, go have fun. Because I had forgotten the fun part, because I write for a living, and this is a contracted book, and I'm thinking of readers, and I'm like, are they even going to like the first one? Should I even be wasting my time on the second one at this point? Right?
Yeah, I get that feeling. Yeah.
Yes. And so he's like, go have fun, and I was like, oh, okay,
okay,
yeah. I mean, all right, okay, go have some fun.
When hot husband speaks, you listen.
I do, actually.
I also have a hot husband, and I try to listen to him. He's our producer, so he's listening to right now. So I listen to him all the time. But he's my first beta reader, and every good, bad, ugly idea I bounce off him first. So he gets a lot of my ups and downs as being a writer, which one great day of writing, I walk out of the room and I'm like, I'm going to win an award. This book is I'm going to win the Bram Stoker Award. I know I am. And then the next day I literally leave the room going, I don't even know how to make sentences. How did I think I was writing? Like, it just, it's all over the place.
Yeah. Yep. I think we all swing between delusions of grandeur and paranoia, like many times a day.
Sometimes from sentence to sentence. I'm like, oh, that one worked. And then the next line, you're like, How do I have no ideas now?
No, I sent Jen, and this wasn't even my sentence. I sent Jen something that was going on the back cover of one of my books, and both of us are like, I don't know what grammar is anymore. I don't know if this should be an is or an are. And Jen's answer was, I think it's this one, which means it's probably that one. Like both of us had just given up on the concept of how English works at this point.
I know. We were like literally, I just gave up on grammar. I'm like, I don't know. I can't tell you which one of those is right. Is, are, is, are. I still don't know.
And you stare at it for too long. And then, I've done this so many times.
I do that. I do that if I happen to come across a writing tip and I'm like, oh, but then I notice that I keep doing the wrong thing over and over. Like, don't start every sentence with she or he or a pronoun. And I'm like, oh, that's my whole book.
Yeah.
Mix
and you start questioning. Yes.
No, but Trisha, I did the same thing. I recently revised some scenes for the book that's coming out. And I felt like I couldn't figure out how to do a sentence that didn't start with she or the name of the character. And I'm going, this is really ridiculous. So I was doing something else. And then I couldn't make it into a sentence. I'm going, well, no, apparently this works with she or her.
We overthink it. We start to overthink it and it's just gone. Yes.
Yeah.
Writers overthink for a living.
I was doing something the other night and I was up till about 4 and I literally spent the last 2 or 3 hours rewriting the same 2.5 paragraphs.
No.
That's all I did.
Honey, no.
I'm in the back of my mind. Your voice exactly is going, go to bed. Go to bed. Stop, put it down, walk away. And I'm like, no, I will beat this paragraph into submission.
There is nothing good happens.
There's nothing
good happens after 3 a.m.
I know. And you shouldn't do it, but yeah. So
yeah.
I went to bed.
Do you ever do you believe in writer's block?
I don't know. I mean, yes and no, but I think it just means that you need to maybe do a little more outlining, or you need to think, about what is the immediate goal for my main character here. Maybe it's not clear enough to you, or how can I raise the stakes here? And one thing I love to do if I start to feel kind of like that, or that I like to suggest to other people, is journal as your main character. Or journal as another character, in the first person, and just journal as them. I think it helps.
I love that.
More notes, don't mind. I keep doing this. It's a crayon. This is what I could find.
So I take some creative writing classes with an amazing author. Her name is Diane Zinna, and she gave advice in one of her classes that she said, if it's not working, write the same scene, but from the point of view of an object in the room.
Oh, I like that.
And I was like, oh, I never thought about doing that. And it really helped my current work in progress. Because I was like, how do I was like slogging through this scene about somebody like looking through a photo album. And then I said, oh, I'm just going to write from the point of view of the photo album instead of from the character.
I love that.
And it kind of changed the entire book, because then I realized, oh, that was kind of cool. What other times can I like pick a random object and like write from that point of view?
And make it a theme rather than just a weird scene that
one weird scene from the point of view of a photo album.
Lamps.
We're back to write like no one's reading, because Jen's like, I don't know what's happening.
I know. I think I mentioned it to Allison. I'm like, is this too weird if I'm like writing from the point of view of like a bell?
For the record, I will never say anything's too weird.
No, nothing's too weird. I want to try that. I love that.
It's a great. So I do it now sometimes, just like if I free write or just like for inspiration, things like that. It's amazing.
That's
you'll have to thank me in your next book.
The scene, I want to do it.
Well, and I wanted to mention, Tosca, you were talking about the stakes, and one of the things you just did so well, and again, I will say this without spoiling anything, but you managed to have a character who has high stakes in multiple areas. So it's not just like, okay, there's goal, and if she gets to that goal, everything will work out, but multiple things. And I don't see a lot of books like that. It's usually end all be all is one thing that's either they get it or they don't get it. Yours, there were layers there, which helped the tension just stay so high the entire time. I mean, when I say my ears were doing this when I was done, it was just, okay, there's another book coming. I need to read another book because the tension just had built up the entire time, and I might have an ulcer now, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I really, when I do thrillers, I know you're supposed to keep readers turning the pages. And I really want to keep readers doing that. And I want to keep them up past bedtime. I want to make them call into work sick and skip school. So
I love that.
I want to do that because that's, when I was growing up, we didn't have like video games. We didn't have this stuff. Books was what we had. And then a few random shows like Fantasy Island that, were kind of fun and stuff. But, books was what we had. And my greatest joy was staying up and reading by the light of my alarm clock so I wouldn't get in trouble, right? Yes. Can I get an amen?
Preach.
And this should not be a surprise, but I am not particularly athletic. And I remember sticking Anne Rice books under my sweatshirt for zero period PE and waiting till the coach would go back inside and then plopping down and taking out my book. So I would stay up late and I would smuggle books into gym. That's smuggling.
Yeah.
And Tosca, you should be happy because I work from home and I can make my own schedule. And today, my boss is probably watching this. I didn't do any work today because I'm listening to the audiobook. I was up late listening. And again, your narrator is phenomenal.
She is so good.
She's amazing.
We were so
lucky
lucky
to
to her. What's that? She did both of them. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's done, and she did Bird Box. She did
Dark Places.
Dark Places.
I
she's
looked her up.
good.
That's how good she is. I was like,
Yeah.
I've heard her voice before, and I don't do a ton of audiobooks, and I
Mhm.
recognized her voice, and so I looked her up, and I'm like, Dark
She's
Places.
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's like professionally intense. That must be her thing. She's like, I can sound scared and just freaked out all the time. And she does very well.
Yeah, I love her. Yeah.
So I love that you have like a relationship or that you know she's doing your next book, that you can say things like, I love her, because it's such a personal relationship to hear somebody read your words.
Oh, it's definitely weird. And I don't read my own books after I write them, but I will listen to some of them because they make it sound like a different story. It sounds different. So
I'm in the very early stages of audiobooks. And so I've been listening to like chapters at a time, and I'm like, wow, this is actually a pretty good book. My husband's like, yeah, like I won an award. And I'm like, no, but like the way he's reading it makes it sound like.
Now I see why it won the award.
Now instead of just me being like, I can't even look at this book again. Okay.
That must be the trick. Get somebody else to read your book, and then you'll have the confidence that you didn't have in it before.
And you're like, wow, this is pretty good.
I'm talented.
Did you get a say in picking her? Has she done some of your other books from some of the historical fiction, or do you have other people who have done those?
I think she did one of the Progeny books and my duology before. And when we were doing that, so my publisher is Simon Schuster, and they would generally send me like one or two people and say, who do you like better? And so, and they're all good. I mean, they're all great. So it's kind of like, well, who's available? And
it's which matches the voice, because I know one of the things that I've struggled with. My romance books are out on sub-rights now for getting picked up for audio. It may never happen because of how they were published. Long story there. But one of the things I struggle with is I listen to a ton of audiobooks, but I have yet to hear a professional narrator that sounds like the voice in my head to have that voice. Even some of the really good ones, it just doesn't match. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is that right voice
for
to
that
give words. Yours is a perfect match. And I even told Jenna at first I wasn't entirely sure because I thought she sounded older than your main character is, but eventually it sunk in with me, and I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't. It doesn't matter if in my head she sounds a little older than the character. It still is perfect.
She was old beyond her years. We need like a book club edition.
Yeah, I didn't know how old the character was right when it started because it wasn't established right away. And then when the character is established at the age, I'm like, oh, that's younger than I thought. And it may have just been because this voice to me sounded more mature and more. It didn't sound like not a kid, but a young adult. It sounded
Mm-hmm.
But she did such a good job. It wouldn't matter.
Oh yeah, so good.
I know. I'm like everybody who's listening to this later or watching the live stream, please, you need to read The Line Between.
Oh, thank you.
I haven't been this kind of riveted by a book in a while, and riveted. And I've read a lot of amazing books in the past 40 blah, 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 years, but this one's been, it's maybe because of the pandemic now. Obviously your writing style is beautiful. You've combined beauty and terror in this book, and that is my favorite. That's my sweet spot. That's where I want to live.
You guys make me feel so good. Can I come back tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we won't be here, but
it's fine.
Yeah.
She came on once and we couldn't get rid of her.
We'll also be like, oh, and our fourth Vox Vomitus vixen. Like, oh, now there's 4 of us. It's fine.
There she is again.
She's Tosca logged in. Great.
Well,
you're more than welcome.
As far as team ups, I did want to ask. So you also are known for writing with Ted Dekker. Mm-hmm. How is that as far as writing by yourself versus writing with another person? Is that something you plan on doing more of, or right now that's like you're working on your own thrillers? Tell us about what that's like.
Well, I am actually right now writing with another author. It's a historical World War II, so totally different once again, but I'm just calling it historical.
Historical's fine.
Yeah, every partnership I think is different, and I know a lot of authors who partner with other authors, and I think they all do it different. And I've never seen one partnership that had the same process. And with writing with Ted, with Marcus Brotherton, who I'm writing with now, I think it doesn't matter. Especially that first book. I feel like it can take longer than writing alone, because it takes time to figure out your system and how you're going to go about this, and there's negotiation involved. And if you do more, I think it gets shorter and shorter. When Ted and I wrote our trilogy, the first one took over a year, and then the second one was maybe 7 months or so. And I want to say the third one flew by between 2 and 3 months. I mean, it was just, we had it down. Yeah. So, I think it just depends on how well you can navigate each of your strengths. And I think that if you're going to do a partnership, you need to be, both of you have to be aware of what strengths are you bringing to the table, and how do they complement each other. So,
that's amazing.
Did that help you kind of figure out what your strengths are, or areas that maybe the other person was a little bit pulling you along in those areas?
Yeah, I feel like I learned a lot from that partnership, because I had come from writing these, more literary style, historical, ancient historical stuff, and he was writing serial killer murders, right? And so we had to find a common voice, and that's what we do. We finally created this common voice, and then he wrote ancient history, biblical historical novels, and I started doing thrillers. So
you guys just bags.
It went like that.
It was like a Freaky Friday thing.
It was. It is. But I learned a lot, because he was known for his pacing, and I feel like I took a lot away from that experience. Yeah.
Gosh, amazing. Ladies, I hate to cut this short, but we are out of time.
I feel like this was like my ego. It feels so good. You guys have been so nice to me.
Are people mean to you? Because I will, with my spindly arms.
No, you guys have just been so kind and so wonderful. Thank you for all the sweet things you have said.
We mean them. Tosca and I share the same publicist, Mckee from Creative Edge, and I flat out told him that I would probably be an embarrassing fangirl. And he was like, oh, okay, that's fine. That's fine. I think he gets me enough that I was like, just so you know, if I see Tosca, I might start crying.
And you didn't. You did a good job, Jen.
I did a good job of not crying when I see the guest. You know, it's happened before where I'm like, I can't talk. Just.
Well, there was one time that like your electricity went out. That wasn't your fault. That was like a storm, and that knocked that whole thing out. And we're just like, Trisha and I are looking at the guest going, we don't know what to do. Can we stop? We can't stop.
No.
We're just like trapped on the podcast going.
Oh no.
Yeah. Beauty of live podcasting, everyone. So
We are live.
thank you, Tosca. Thank you, Vox Vomitus Vixens.
Oh, thank you, you guys, you ladies.
Guys, yeah, I mean, whatever. You can call us
I'm in
whatever.
California. We call everybody dude.
Oh, that's right.
Call me dude.
I want to tell everybody next week. Oh, that's a lot of writing that I can't read because I'm not wearing my glasses.
I'll read it. Elisa von Schumann says, thank you, Tosca. I love that journaling idea when writer's block rears its ugly head. We'll definitely be using this. And thank you, lovely vixens, as always.
Oh, see, I love it when the fans call us lovely.
Yes.
More of that.
Yay.
I'm never leaving.
One of my writing buddies, so she knows I can go and slip her a cupcake later and go.
So I hope everybody tunes in next week while we will have the guest David Bergerard. I feel like I said the name correctly. That's a lot of R's for me. David
There are a lot of R's.
Bergerard.
Author of The Epiphany Machine.
Yeah. So that will be next time on Vox Vomitus next week. Thank you to my handsome husband, our producer, Roman Sorotin. Thank you to Pam Stack and everybody at the Global Authors on the Air Network. This has been a copywritten podcast, and we will see you all next